Freedom Day is not only being celebrated here at home, a flag-raising ceremony is being held in New York to mark 29 years of South African democracy. And correspondent William Denslow is there for us. William, can you tell us a little bit about the proceedings today in New York?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've heard from US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He's offered his huge congratulations to South Africa. He said that South African democracy, freedom and self-determination has become a beacon for many countries around the world. Now, you mentioned here in New York City, and as you can probably see behind me, we're getting set for New York's own preparations to mark Freedom Day. And I'm joined by Themba Khumalo, who is the acting CEO of South African Tourism. I'm glad to present him and to join me now. So please come over, and thank you very much for taking a few minutes to chat to us on eNCA. First of all, just what is the significance of today's event?
About this time next year, we'll be celebrating 30 years of democracy. It has not been an easy journey, but the journey that we have covered, the ground that we've covered as a young democracy has been absolutely incredible. The freedoms that are in our Bill of Rights in Section 2 of our Constitution. People can love whoever they want to love. People can have got the freedom to be who they want to be. People in South Africa live free lives and are able to accomplish themselves in ways that they could not 30 years ago. And the people of the United States of America kept the country open, not just through the struggle to 1994, but even in the middle of COVID, kept the country open. And that's why, from a tourism standpoint, the United States of America is the biggest international market inbound into South Africa, growing at exponential rates, even growing faster than Europe, which traditionally, has been the bedrock of our tourism inbound travel. And that is why today it is particularly important that we're here celebrating Freedom Day. And look at the weather. South Africa is warm. South Africa is vibrant. South Africa is welcoming. South Africa is colorful. We have been exporting into the world our culture, our music, our fashion, our food. We export the absolute exceptional parts of who we are into the rest of the world. And that is why today is such a beautiful day to be alive as a South African.
And Mr. Khumalo, what more can be done, tangible steps, to bring more folks from the US to South Africa going forward?
So let me tell you what's happening right now. United Airlines, Delta Airlines are flying both into Johannesburg and into Cape Town in higher frequencies than we've ever seen even before COVID. And I had meetings here with those airlines, and they're going to continue to increase those frequencies and even flying with bigger aircraft to bring more people. That's the first thing. The second thing is in terms of the interchange of culture. So we had meetings with all of the big broadcasters here, and they're bringing a lot more events into South Africa that will attract a lot more people, not just from America, but also from the continent into the country. So right now is the best time for us to drive tourism, for us to increase and accelerate economic growth in our country through tourism out of the United States.
You touched on the ties between the two countries, and we're here, of course, in New York City. It's a city that has such strong and such prominent links with South Africa, of course. Through music, of course, we know that Hugh Masekela spent much of his life. He really harnessed his talents as a horn player here in New York City. Of course, Nelson Mandela spent so much time here in New York. What is the intrinsic link between New York City and South Africa, and why is that bond so important?
So, we've got great South Africans that have come and accomplished themselves in the United States. You're right. Last Sunday, not this past Sunday, but the previous Sunday, Hugh Masekela was inducted into the Hall of Fame, the Lincoln Hall of Fame of jazz music here in the United States. But let's throw it forward now. In October, in Madison Square Garden, our own musician, Black Coffee, the first African to sell out Madison Square Garden, October 8th this year. So all of these things show that as a country, not just previously, but now and into the future. I mean, I was at a restaurant and they were talking to us about South African winemakers. You know, the new New York section, you know, all of the buildings, the new buildings coming up. Mm-hmm. The guy that designed Silo in South Africa designed one of the buildings, actually two of the new buildings in the new section of New York. So all of these things show that as South Africans, we are punching way above our weight and will continue to do so. The new generation of South Africans are bold, they're smart, they're creative, they're innovative, they're tech savvy, and we will continue to have those ties between ourselves, the United States and the rest of the world. And that is why people need to travel to South Africa to see the exceptionalism of our country.
When it comes to the exceptional, you mentioned the weather, obviously the strong cultural ties, the plethora of terrific things that South Africa has to offer. Of course, in the media here in the US, for audiences, you see so much when it comes to the dark sides in South Africa. You see reports here in US media of the crime. You see issues when it comes to power cuts, things of that nature. What is the message from South African tourism going forward to persuade people that it is a terrific place to visit, to go on holiday, to spend your time?
You know, here's the one thing that I know for sure. I'm in New York, and there's places in New York that I wouldn't go, right? So safety is not a country-specific issue. It's a world issue, you know? So when you travel to a place, you just need to be savvy about where you go, what you don't expose yourself to. But South Africa is the most fantastic place on earth. You go to Cape Town, Stellenbosch, you go to Joburg, the art, the fashion, the food, the people. It is the best place on earth as far as I know. I would not relocate to anywhere else on the earth, and that is why I'm saying people around the world must come to South Africa. And here's the last thing. People don't travel to a place, they travel for a story. They travel to be able to tell a story that they can't tell if they've not been to that particular place. Come to South Africa, boundless stories, stories of joy, stories of freedom, stories of openness, and stories of prosperity.
Well, Mr. Khumalo, I know that you've got a busy few hours up ahead. The Mayor of New York City is set to be here in a little while, so I'll let you get on with the preparations. But thank you so much for speaking to ENCA. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And happy Freedom Day.
Absolutely. Well, of course, plenty of excitement later. In just a few minutes' time, the Mayor of New York City will be here. We've got music, speeches, including from the acting Chair, CEO of South African Tourism. So plenty of events here in New York City as we mark Freedom Day.
Thank you so much. That was William Denslow coming to us from New York as the Freedom Day celebrations there include a flag-raising ceremony. We heard there from South African Tourism CEO Themba Khumalo. Now, President